Everybody, one and all, to HogvilleNET YouTube live post-game analysis. The Arkansas Razorbacks, for now, stop the bleeding. 91-84 on the road. First road win of the season for the Razorbacks over, league winless Missouri. The Tigers are worse than the Razorbacks. That was obvious for most of this game. Again, 91-84. This has been an anemic offensive team for the Razorbacks. We saw Arkansas's offense come to life tonight. Defense played really well in the first half. And a few other things. I mean, picking up the first road win. Arkansas now, when you look outside of Bud Walton Arena, games not played at home in Bud Walton. Arkansas's 3-6 on the season, now 1-3 in true road games. One of those 3 wins was in North Little Rock. It counts as a home game in net at Simmons Bank Arena. So, the Arkansas had the neutral site win, true neutral site win over in the Bahamas against Stanford in the first round of the Battle for Atlantis. The Hogs now, technically, when you look at net, pick up their second away from home, first true road win, now that when you look at this win at Mizzou. So, it's a Missouri team now 8-13, 0-8 in league play. Arkansas shorthanded still. Trevor Brazil not playing. We know Devo Davis has stepped away from the program. This is second consecutive game, which doubles up the amount of games he missed last year after stepping away from the program when the Hogs returned from Maui. Maybe he doesn't come back. There's an argument that can be made that less is more. Devo Davis and Trevor Brazil, ironically, were Arkansas's 2 first and second team preseason All-SEC selections. Brazil on Player of the Year watch list nationally, and those guys just weren't bringing the bread, man. They were not delivering on effort. Too often in this bad stretch of league games, you could see the lack of effort, and you could see a listlessness from both of those guys, lack of production. You could go on, and it seemed to permeate. In these last 2 games without both of these guys, dare I say, Arkansas had its most effective effort collectively, the most effective defensively. They've been their most effective. Now, the second half wasn't great defensively tonight. We've seen this with Arkansas in Arkansas games in the few this season where Arkansas's built up leads and had really great first halves. They backslide some in the second half, especially down the stretch. Look, this felt like the A&M win at home where Arkansas built the big lead, 20-point first half lead, big leads in the second half, and then fell behind by a point with 6 or 7 seconds left, and had to have a buzzer beater. Had this game had one more minute of game action, I'm not so sure Arkansas doesn't lose this, but that's not how it works. So there's 40 minutes, and Arkansas did just enough in building cushions to hold on here. And most of it's positive. Look, one of the things I talked, or that when I put out my tweet today to join me tonight in postgame, I said I'm going to address the rumors. And so there's several of them, and I'm going to do that. But I've decided that if Arkansas lost, I was going to jump right into the rumor stuff and give that attention. I was going to give it attention first and then talk about the game. But after a win like that, as down as Arkansas's been, snapping a 3-game losing streak, but Arkansas did a couple but after a win, I'm going to talk about the game first, and then we're going to get to some of the rumors, and I'm going to talk about some of that. Because I want there to be some clarity. I hinted a week ago after the Ole Miss loss in my post game. I talked about some stuff going on behind the scenes that I wasn't going to get into yet. I said it might even be after the season before I could get into some of it. Well, some stuff is broken onto social media, and so now that there's a little bit of a door crack there, I'm going to give a little bit of clarity on at least one thing and talking about another. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're going to talk about this win. Arkansas really, again, 2 back-to-back games where the matchups were favorable for Arkansas around the basket. Kentucky was a team that lacked physicality. By the way, the Wildcats, after winning early in league play on the road at Florida, lose at home in overtime to the Gators. So Kentucky's lost 2 of 3. And I think teams are starting to expose some of the weak spots because this is not a good defensive Kentucky team. We saw Arkansas's offense sputter against the Wildcats, but still physically dominant inside on the glass in defending, and that's where Arkansas's defense kind of turned things around. Arkansas's defense, for the most part in the first half, once again, really good. I think one of the things is when you build a 19-point lead at the break and you led by as many as 23 points early in the second half, one of the 2 things concern me. Arkansas led a 90+% free throw shooter. They kept putting him at the free throw line in that first half. This is a Missouri team that came into this game in league play at 0-7, averaging 10 fewer free throw attempts per game than its opponents. But Arkansas was certainly felt fine putting this guy, this 90+% free throw shooter at the line, and he kept making them. The other thing Arkansas did was Arkansas was dominating the play in the paint, much like it did for stretches against Kentucky, although this was much, much more dominant. But Arkansas's three-point field goal defense was not good in the first half, and it wasn't good in this game, and it gave Missouri a chance to kind of hang around and claw back. Now, Arkansas, for most of the second half, I mentioned, went from that 19-point lead at the break, 23-point lead early in the second half, and you saw Missouri make a run to get it to 13. Then Arkansas expanded it back to 18, and then Missouri kept clawing away. And I thought Arkansas hit one of those stretches where on offense, they passed up good shots, tried to made shots tougher, turned the ball over. You had a stretch where guys were going 1 and 2 at the free throw line, even though Arkansas shot well overall from the line tonight. And this was a Missouri team that from the three-point line and the free throw line was able to, scratch it down to a 7-point loss, 91-84. You'll take that. Arkansas had lost 3 straight. Arkansas avoids, by the way, the 1-6 league start had matched the program's worst ever SEC start through the first 7 games, going back to John Pelfrey's team that finished 2-14 all the way back in 08-09, 15 years ago. Had Arkansas lost again, they're keeping pace with that team, right? Arkansas didn't do that. Something else very interesting. I've already got it in the first draft of my game story. Had Arkansas lost tonight, it would have been the first time that the overall record at 10-11 would have been underwater at any point in time under Eric Melsman coaching the Razorbacks. That had not happened, had never happened, and now in his 5th season, it could have happened tonight. So they avoid that. I've been saying forever, over a week, that Arkansas needed to split games last week to not have to run the table 11-0 in the last 11 games for a shot at a realistic at-large opportunity going in the SEC tournament. Technically speaking, I said Arkansas, after going 0-2 last week, I said Arkansas needed to win out. Technically speaking, Arkansas is on pace to do that. No one believes that'll happen. I don't believe it'll happen, but Arkansas gives itself a chance. Losing on the road at Missouri tonight was a final death knell. It just was, barring some kind of crazy run, including winning the SEC tournament, in my opinion. Perhaps Arkansas could have won the final 10 games and played its way into the finals of the SEC tournament and found a way to get in. Maybe I'm wrong on trying to calculate it this far out. But I really think Arkansas can't afford the bad losses that were, when you look at Missouri twice, Arkansas will get Missouri back at home late February, LSU twice. Arkansas goes on the road Saturday to play LSU. And then Arkansas is off for a week, and then we'll host Georgia on Saturday, a team that went down at home tonight against Alabama. The Tide are rolling in league play, and Georgia's a good team, but Arkansas's got a chance to pick up another road win against LSU. I'm not predicting it. Come back home against a Georgia team that was actually competitive against, lost by 10 points on the road, but was within a possession with about 5 minutes left, 3-point game, and missed a front end of a 1-1, by the way, that might have gotten that lead down a little bit more late in that game. So Arkansas's got a chance to string together some wins here, avoid bad losses. It's not going to boost the net score a ton, but it would keep Arkansas's, technically, the hopes alive to finish right. Maybe, and I don't see a path. There's 5 quad 1 win opportunities ahead. Really, when you look at that, you're talking about Tennessee at home, a really good Tennessee team. That's on February 14th, so about 2 weeks away. That's a midweek game. And then you're looking on the road against, the rematch against Kentucky on the road, at Mississippi State, at Alabama, and then at Texas A&M. So you got 5 quad 1 win opportunities coming up, and you've got to win. You got 4 of those on the road. So there's not a realistic path in terms of what this Arkansas team is, and has been. But I do find it interesting that we're seeing the effort level kick up for everybody. And there's a lot of players we can tip the hat to tonight, and then look back at Kentucky and see where some guys maybe are flourishing with more opportunities with Brazile and Devo out. Because if you think about those guys, as poorly as they played, they started more than anybody. And in Davis's case, he was playing more minutes than most. And he was, this was a game where when you look at the first half, Arkansas was dominant in so many areas. I mentioned putting the 90+% free throw shooter at the line, even on and ones. Arkansas didn't stop him from getting buckets, and they were giving him free throws or putting him at the line for two. And then the 3-point defense. Other than that, Arkansas was dominant points in the paint everywhere else, built that 19-point lead. But let's go through some of the stats. I'm going to go through it individually. We're going to talk about, to me, I mean, Tremont Mark led Arkansas team high, 22 points. He did cobble together some of that scoring late when Missouri was making runs, and he did just enough scoring. I thought Minifield did too. But Mark, 22 points, a game high, 8 of 13 efficient from the field, 6 of 8 at the line, 75%. You'll take that. 4 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 1 assist. He did have 3 turnovers, but 34 minutes. Tremont Mark, after not having a good offensive game against Kentucky, bounces back today. I really think if his offensive game would have been somewhere between where it was in this one and where it was on Saturday, Arkansas might be on a 2-game winning streak. I think that was probably the difference in that game when you look at one individual who's been your consistent leading scorer and efficient having an off night. Okay, well, there it is. We'll get back to this game. But probably the player of the game, in my opinion, if I'm going to call it, I'm going to say that it's Mekhi Mitchell on his 24th birthday. Another double-double, back-to-back double-doubles, 19 points, a season high, 8 of 13, just like Tremont Mark from the field, very efficient, 3 of 4 at the foul line. So in his last 2 games, 11 of 14 at the foul line, combining Kentucky and now Missouri on the road. That's unheard of for Mekhi Mitchell. But 14 big rebounds. So in the last 2 games, he's combined for 27 rebounds. He had 2 assists and 2 turnovers, 34 minutes. I thought Mekhi Mitchell was a player of the game. His first half was just outstanding and really staked Arkansas. Arkansas's attacks on the rim. Arkansas really limited the 3-point attempts and really put pressure on the rim. And even during that decision-making on offense to attack that paint rim against another soft, baby-ass soft front line, you still, Arkansas, you had Caleb Battle, who got the start again tonight, knocking down 2 of 2 from 3 in that stretch. So Arkansas was efficient from 3, 3 of 4 at the halftime break from behind the arc. So the Razorbacks limited the 3-point attempts and went after the weakness of the other team, which was a soft front line. And I thought that was a big key. You saw Jalen Graham, obviously, to me, his first half was probably an early second half offensively. He finishes with 13 points, 6-11 from the field, but 4 assists. He made some really good decisions, dumping the ball down. Arkansas just had its way. This was a game that had a bunch of tie ball, jump ball situations, alternating possessions. It seemed like, I don't know the last time I saw Arkansas get so many dunks and easy dunks and uncontested shots at the rim and finish. Everybody got dunks. It seemed like a lot of Hogs got dunks tonight. And Graham, with his 13 points, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. So he was active. He only had 1 rebound, 25 minutes. He fouled out with 5 minutes left. Things were getting a little bit dicey there. He did a lot of stuff defensively and playmaking. Arkansas's defense has not been able to force turnovers, live ball turnovers all season long. They don't generate a lot of steals against a very bad Missouri team. Folks, take this with a grain of salt. Understand it's a matchup. Understand the level of competition. But Arkansas did go on the road and had one of its better games when you look at the hustle stats. We're going to get into it as a team. Right now I'm going through individuals. I thought the combination of Leighton Blocker, who got a start tonight, and Keon Minifield Jr., who had his first double-digit scoring game since the Auburn game in the opener, which wasn't really a great game for him. He had a good first half, and Arkansas was competitive. After that, he's not really been there. 16 points tonight. Now look, only 4 of 11 from the field. I thought some of his shot selections weren't great. But he stuck 2 of 3 from distance in a game where Missouri knocked down a lot of threes and Arkansas did just enough there on low volume because Arkansas was really attacking the paint. But he made all 6 of his free throws. So he had 32 minutes tonight, 16 points. That's his high water mark in league play. 3 assists, a couple of rebounds, only 1 turnover. Arkansas had a bad second half turning the ball over. He only had 1 of those tonight. So a big game for Minifield. I thought Blocker, you see his aggressiveness and where it leads to some good things and then some other things where some mistakes happen, and he's just up and down with that as a true freshman. But got the start tonight. 9 points, made both of his field goals. I loved his first half dunk in transition. I mean, he tattooed the rim. We know he's capable of that. But 5 of 6 at the foul line, so he's gotten better and better. Remember the Florida game where he went 1 of 4, and then he finished 6 of 10. So he made, what was that, 5 of his last 6. He went 5 of 6 tonight at the foul line, so he's getting better there. He did have 3 turnovers, but 3 rebounds all on the offensive glass. A couple of those, one at the end of the first half that sent him to the free throw line. He made both free throws. I don't even know if he was credited with an offensive rebound. He was fouled attempting to get it. He might have gotten credited for it and got fouled, but it was with 0.2 seconds left. They reviewed the clock, gave him 2 free throws. He made them. He got another one late in the game and got to the foul line. But 3 rebounds all on the offensive glass, a couple assists, a steal, 29 minutes for Layden Blocker, but he did have the 3 turnovers. Jeremiah Davenport only 0 for 1 from 3. He had some bad fouls in there and maybe a bad turnover or 2, but he did finish with 3 rebounds, a block shot, and he had a box score +8 in his 14 minutes. I mentioned Battle. He hit those early 2 threes. He was 0 for 4 the rest of the game from the field, but he did have a couple of steals and 4 rebounds. Played mostly in the first half, 15 minutes. And he got nicked, and so I think he got nicked up, and I think that that was why there wasn't more Caliph Battle in this game. So those guys, Chandler Lawson got a start tonight alongside with Jalen Graham. Mackay was playing off the bench again. And Lawson with 6 points. He got a dunk. And I think he had 4 rebounds. And he played 15 or 16 minutes. So he was actually a box +8 in his minutes. So good minutes from Lawson, what he did. So this was one of those games where, again, addition by subtraction, I don't know. I don't know if we can go there. This might have been a game where Trevor Brazil in a homecoming against Mizzou might have a big game against another soft front line. I think both of these last 2 matchups would have benefited him. But we've seen other frontliners step up with him off the floor and play pretty well. Again, look at what Kentucky has on the front line. Look how soft these 2 teams are defensively. Let's keep that in mind moving forward because you don't want to oversell the idea that this team has turned a corner like previous seasons. The offense has been awful. 91 points was easily a high watermark in league play. 78 was the previous one in the other win over A&M at home, 78-77. The other 6 SEC games, Arkansas failed to score more than 68 points in a game. And in 3 of those 6 games, Arkansas failed to get to 60. 51-51 and 56 at Ole Miss, 51 against Auburn, and 51 against Ole Miss, and 58 or 68 in the road loss to Florida. There was another 51 in the loss to Ole Miss. Arkansas was in the 50s in another game. Kentucky, 57, I'm sorry. Lost 63-57. Boy, I went around the world to getting that one right. But you get the point. Arkansas has been bad offensively, typically shooting in the 30s. As a team tonight, we're going to go through this. Arkansas finishes 33 of 61, 54.1%. Easily the team's best night shooting the ball in league play. Only 6 attempts from 3. 4 of 6, efficient night. Battle and Minifield knocked them in. 66.7%. 21 of 26 at the foul line. That's outstanding. 80.8%. So Arkansas exceeded everything in efficiency. And the Hogs got over 60 field goal attempts, making 33. Outstanding night there. Arkansas did have 14 assists on those 33 made field goals. Not quite 50%, but that's fine. That's just fine. Arkansas had a lot of solo plays in transition off steals and stuff. We didn't have assists, so you always want your eye test to explain stats. Stats aren't always tell you exactly what happened. I thought Arkansas did a good job, in other words, of moving the ball when they were in offense and half-court set, especially in that first half. Not as much in the second half, and you saw some turnovers in there too. I thought Arkansas, we've seen them in so many games where they build, in the games that they've played well, even against some of the non-conference mid-majors, and they build up big leads and just can't, they have to hold on at the end. And the scoreboard is kind of misleading for what the team accomplished for 34, 35 minutes. But, the score is what it is. Arkansas ends up winning by 7 after leading by 23 in the second half and 19 at the break. Held double-digit leads for most of this game. But again, the shooting percentages, Mizzou ends up 27 of 59 from the field, 45.8%. Arkansas held Mizzou in the 30s in the first half, so Mizzou outshot Arkansas percentage-wise in the second half, but Arkansas again built that big lead, so it wasn't enough there. Here's where Arkansas continues to struggle. It's where Kentucky beat Arkansas 9 of 20 from three, 45%, despite Arkansas holding Kentucky for the entire game in the 30s field goal-wise overall. But 10 of 20 for Mizzou. Wide open shots. Arkansas did a poor job of contesting from three. 10 of 20 there, 50%. So back-to-back games where, teams combined for 19 of 40, from three. That's not good three-point defense. 20 of 22 at the line, 90.9% for Missouri, and Bates was the beneficiary of a lot of that. I think he was 10 of 10 at the foul line. The rest of the team was 10 of 12, but he made all of his. Arkansas kept fouling him. And a lot of times they fouled him and it was an and one because they didn't even stop the shot from going in. There still continues to be trouble for Arkansas. I mentioned it, holding on to leads, some of these problem areas. I mean, this was a team, again, Missouri, that was giving up 10 more free throw attempts per game to the opposition in league play. Arkansas shoots 4 more. It's a little misleading because Missouri was fouling late intentionally to stop the clock, put Arkansas at the line. It was really kind of a dead heat. So advantage Missouri there, especially the way Arkansas attacked in the paint and dominated there. I guess the argument is Missouri wasn't even trying to defend because they weren't fouling a lot. They just gave up easy scores. Most of Arkansas's dunks were uncontested, and guys were there. They just didn't close or contest. Kind of surprised by that in the SEC. You don't see a lot of that. Even Kentucky, as soft as it was inside, put up more of a fight than I thought Missouri did. But the Hogs, points in the paint, 56-30. Savor the flavor. I don't know if we'll see that again this year in the SEC. Maybe the return game when Missouri comes to Fayetteville, it'll be something similar. But right now, and against anybody else, I don't know. Plus 26 there. When you looked at points off turnovers, Arkansas plus 10, 25-15. Missouri did a better job in the second half of closing that gap. And Arkansas had a much better advantage than that at one point. But turnovers plus 3, 18-15 again. The cushion was wider at one point. Arkansas wins rebounds plus 9, 35-26. Arkansas was plus 1 in offensive rebounds, 12-11. Second chance points, both teams scored 17 points. Arkansas was plus 7 bench scoring, and Arkansas wins by 7. So 35-28. Fast break, Arkansas led 11-0 at halftime. Arkansas ends up winning that 19-16. I mentioned some of those unforced turnovers. Missouri was able to get out and transition off some of those live ball turnovers. Arkansas's really struggled getting steals, getting live ball turnovers, winning those battles, and ends up winning tonight. That technically, but you wish they'd finish better in some of these things. A win is a win. These are the games you have to win to get back in it and finish strong and have a good SEC tournament. That's correct. A win is a win. But we can't just leave out, we can't just talk about how great Arkansas was in so many areas without talking about things that hurt this team and have hurt them all season, because those things also play into why Arkansas loses. So even though Arkansas wins, that's the most important thing. We're 23 minutes in, real soon to get into the rumor talk. So Arkansas finishes plus 3 in fast break, 19-16, but it was 11-0 at the break. Blocks, Arkansas plus 2, 6-4. Arkansas typically wins that, an elite shot blocking team. And Arkansas was plus 1 in assist. I mentioned 14, 13 for Mizzou on that 27-59 field goal shooting. So you look at it, the Bates finished with a game high 29 points. He had 5 steals and 6 turnovers. So he was a guy that was creating some steal opportunities and live ball turnovers, and then kind of giving the ball right back. So there was no plus in it or advantage there because he had 1 more turnover on a high volume than he had steals. So, and then Connor Vanover, the former Hog, he had 5 points early in the game when Mizzou was kind of hanging in there. It was a 1-possession game. He had 5 of their 10 points. It was 12. I think it was 12-10 or something like that. And he played off the bench. He finished with 7 points. All of that came in the first half. And I think he had 4 rebounds and maybe a block shot. So Connor Vanover, the former Hog, you think about it, it seems odd to say now that Arkansas is in the 5th year under Musselman, but he was 3 seasons up there. He was part of that first recruiting class, all transfer guys in the spring when Musselman first got there, sat out the transfer year when you had to do that, even if it was your first time to transfer, and he was first time transfer from Cal. So he sat out a year and then was part of the team for 2 years, had some good games and helped Arkansas win a little bit, but wasn't a consistent top rotation guy when you looked at the arc of it. But 3 seasons under Musselman. Only Devo Davis, who made it 3 2/3 or close to it, was really there more than that. JD Notae was like Connor, 3 seasons, 1 as a redshirt. They came in together. But you don't see a lot of longevity under Eric Musselman. Vanderbilt was one of them. Okay, so we've kind of gone through everything. Congratulations, the Arkansas Razorbacks once again. 7-point win, had big leads through most of this game, scored a ton, 91-84. Checked a lot of boxes. You saw a lot of good individual stuff from guys that are stepping up with what were thought to be the key players on the team. All right, we're going to get to the rumors. And I'm going to talk first about what I'm going to talk about. And I'm not going to go into great depth or give a ton of details, but I alluded to it last week after the Ole Miss game, and I had some folks with comments. I want to know what you know. What are you talking about? I kind of opened up the can of worms. I might have mentioned something a prior time to that on one of these without going into it, but it hit the Twitter sphere. I believe it was yesterday. Coaching changes on Twitter. They're fairly reputable. They put out good info. There's a lot of college coaches that follow that Twitter account. I happen to know the source. It's not me, but the source that fed into that information, and it lines up with what I've been hearing for a while. And when I say a while, I'm not just talking about recently. It's just now recently coming out. I wasn't going to comment, but it's out there. People are talking about it. People are asking about it. And, I believe, based on all the different source info I've had going back to before the start of the season, that there have been feelers put out as a potential for Eric Musselman to potentially move on after this season. So that's been out there for a while as far as what I've been getting back from different sources. You have to be careful with source information. I spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people who have connections or in the know. I have some of my own direct connections, but when you're getting it third hand, you want to be really careful. And one of the things I'm always concerned about is circular info. Are people really just regurgitating the same thing? And I've got it from enough different places, enough separation from sources where I believe what I've heard. Now, sometimes this information is out there for a multitude of reasons. And I don't consider this to be rumor, by the way. I consider it to be truth. Now, what is truth? There's a multitude of reasons why things like that get out. And sometimes it's because it can create leverage for a coach. These guys have agents, and it's their job, to sometimes generate information being out there. I've heard this from enough different people and from different places where I think there's a genuine consideration of moving on after this year. Eric Musselman's never spent a ton of time anywhere. I'm not saying he ends up leaving Arkansas. I'm not saying he's leaning toward that. I'm not saying that there's something in place for him, because none of those things are accurate from what I know. And he could very well be Arkansas's head coach again next year in year 6. Based on everything I've heard and what I've heard for a while, I think it may be, in my opinion right now, more likely that he's not as of now. And it's a slight, I'm teetering on that. So it's a slight more likely lean toward maybe he's not here next year. Okay. So that's where I stand on that. It's, people can call that a rumor. For me, I've heard enough where I think it's more than rumor, but it doesn't mean, there's still 10 games to go. All these teams, all these schools are in their seasons. When you start talking about transfer portal recruiting, all this stuff doesn't officially start happening for a while. But a lot of this stuff behind the scenes is already picking up momentum, and stuff's already going on. Feelers are typically with coaches are put out through third parties. Again, you got to take some of that with a grain of salt. I've just heard enough from enough different branches where I believe there's some validity to that. It doesn't mean that I'm convinced he's gone. but I lean toward that as a more likely outcome than the alternative. Very slight right now. So let's see how things play out. We need to see how this season plays out. There's other stuff going on. There's other rumors going on that I think are beyond the pale in terms of how some of this stuff gets rampant, how some of it gets wild. I haven't asked anyone directly about some of this stuff because I don't want to know. It's none of my business. And I think, again, folks pick stuff up and run with it. Some of the stuff I see on social media, I'm not trying to be a snob or preachy or holier than thou, but some of the stuff, kind of disgusts me. And I think, man, there's a lot of stuff here. Now, having said that, I can't speak to the validity of some of that stuff or lack of it, but I really don't want to get into it. There's some stuff going on behind the scenes in terms of why guys aren't playing and why guys aren't here. But it doesn't even tiptoe into that realm of some of that rumor crap that's out there that I know all of you have seen and heard by now. But I will not get into specifics on some of the stuff that I think that is valid. Not right now. I want to see this season play out and see what happens with guys and who stays gone and who returns. Remember, Trevor Brazile is still getting first round projections for the NBA draft. All you have to do is look at last season and Nick Smith Jr. fighting his way back multiple times and how that hurt his draft stock. Even though he was much more productive and a much better contributor to a team that made an NCAA tournament run, not that his NCAA tournament was great, but he helped position Arkansas to be where it was and to get into the tournament. Without him, they don't make it. But Brazile can look at that and, he's going to have decisions. I can't speak for him. I'm not trying to tip my hat to anything that he might be thinking, but it's got to be a consideration of, do I come back? Do I make a comeback? Do I try to come back? There's got to be a consideration for, does that help or make matters worse? We don't know the severity. When we say knee soreness, that doesn't sound severe, but with all his issues with that knee and getting back after missing most of last season, then tweaking an ankle, which he's never been the same after that, we just don't know all the dynamics there. And so, keep an eye on that. This was a game tonight when we look at players not getting opportunities. Last game, Keon Minifield didn't play. In this game, it was El Ellis who started the last game. Had a poor outing. Tonight, it was El Ellis. Arkansas, Musselman played both walk-ons. I guess all three now that Minifield played. We still call him a walk-on. I don't look at him that way. And then you had Denaje Harris that checked in late in the first half. Bayfall, I guess, didn't play, and El Ellis. And so, we've got stuff off the court. We've got guys not playing. And then we've got guys by coach's decision, game in and game out, who aren't playing. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure that Musselman has really solidified a rotation other than these last two games. Arkansas has been better defensively. The second half tonight, not really, but, most of the game against Kentucky, save for the final stretch of that game where Kentucky started knocking down threes. And then the second half tonight, overall, as bad as the defense was, the offense kind of overtook the defense as being the weakness of the team. Tonight, you had good on both. Again, you would have liked to seen Arkansas been better guarding the three line, not fouling and sending the best free throw shooter, maybe in the league to the line so much. But other than that, like someone posted in one of the comments, a win is a win. There it is. But Arkansas can Arkansas build from this? Sure. I mentioned it earlier. You've got winnable games. Now you've proven you can win away from home and on the road. You got another one of those at LSU. I think LSU is a little better moving along through the season and even in league play than what it was earlier in the year. But it's still a game Arkansas can win. Maybe. If Arkansas gets blown out in that one, people will laugh and say, that Arkansas had a chance, huh? Yeah, we don't know which Arkansas team's going to show up. But for two consecutive games, I would say this is collectively these last, 80 minutes of basketball, this is the most Arkansas's been locked in on defense. It's been, when you look at this offensive game versus the last one, at least you made improvement from one to the other. These are bad defensive teams, and Missouri's just a bad overall team. So you got to put these matchups and these things in perspective. But, for a team that seemed really lacking effort and lacking buy-in and guys just kind of not necessarily quitting, but just Keystone Cops basketball and just so bad in so many ways and just getting blown out. I mean, prior to these last two games, Arkansas was getting, starting 1-5 in league play. The Hogs were those 5 losses, they lost by 20.6 points per game. Arkansas, with game day in the house, national television against Kentucky, gave itself a chance to win and competed. Arkansas competed throughout tonight, although, again, some of the team's problems rear its ugly head when they try to hold on to leads or finish that way. First half play tonight can beat anyone. I mean, if you could apply that, you got to remember, I'm saying this, Missouri is 0-8. Arkansas is 2-6. This is a bad Missouri team. So I think a lot of that had to do with the opposition. I'm not trying to hate on the Hogs. You love to see what Arkansas did tonight. Arkansas could have come out and matched low energy and just struggled throughout the night despite how bad Missouri is. So from that standpoint, credit to Arkansas, credit to Eric Musselman, and credit to the players for taking what they did against Kentucky and building on it against a lesser team. But defensively, again, these were great matchups for Arkansas. Most of the SEC action, it won't be that way. That doesn't mean that Arkansas can't show improvement. And it certainly means that Arkansas can win some more games. I'm really interested to see, can Arkansas pick up some quad one wins? The only quad one win of the season was against Duke back in late November after going, losing 3 out of 4 games. Which was just awful when you looked at Greensboro and then losing those final 2 against Memphis and North Carolina and the Bahamas. Arkansas does have that quad one win. This, by the way, this win over Missouri, Arkansas came in ranked 129th in net, Mizzou 122. But when you beat a team ranked I think it's 76, number 76 through 135 on the road, it counts as a quad 2 win. It counts as a quad 2 win. So Arkansas actually picks up its second quad 2 win of the season. The other one's A&M at home. I mentioned the Duke is the first quad 1. I mentioned there before there's 5 quad 1 win opportunities on the horizon. 4 of those are on the road. So, realistically, seeing what teams like Alabama bring to the table, what Tennessee brings to the table, A&M playing at home when they play the Hogs, that's, Kentucky on the road. And who was the other one I mentioned? Mississippi State. Yeah, if Arkansas can win one of those, that might surprise me. If Arkansas wins 2 of those, you don't hang a banner, but you say, well, there's a progress. Whether it leads to helping them in the postseason, it's probably a decided thing by that point. But some of those opportunities are upcoming. But again, Arkansas, before they get to the quad ones, they still got 2 games on the road at LSU and then back home against Georgia. Those are not quad one win opportunities. And there's a week between those games. They're back-to-back Saturdays. LSU this Saturday, Georgia's will be the following game back home at Bud Walton Arena the following Saturday, February 10th. So, if Arkansas could find a way, with the way the roster is constructed now, to pick up those 2 wins, again, they needed to win out starting with this game to have at-large possibilities. And I say win out. Maybe there's a way to go 10-1 or 9-2 and then use some of the SEC tournament or go all the way to the finals, and maybe there'd be some way to sneak in. The net rating is so bad, the non-conference resume is so bad, and some of these losses have been so bad, and Arkansas can't afford to lose, have another bad loss in terms of the quads, which some of these would offer. But then in the quad ones, in quad 2s, there's just not enough wins there, so they just got to stack them. They got to start stacking them. So it feels like a win-out, must-win thing. And so, technically that's still on. But again, what can Arkansas build from this? I think confidence, but it's a bad team. And so that Arkansas just beat, and Arkansas's bad habits showed up late. And they won. And that's the most important thing. All right, I addressed some of the rumors. I kind of went through some of that. You guys make your own decisions on what you think and what information comes out after that. We really haven't talked about, we didn't talk about recruiting tonight because there really aren't any updates from the last I gave. I will mention again, Arkansas will have another 5-star on campus when the Hogs host Georgia on February 10th. Jaden Johnson, who sent me a really cool highlight reel last night, sent it to my send it to me via Messenger, and I tweeted that out. I really like him. 6'5" guard out of Trinity High School in Louisville, Kentucky. National top 20 guy, ranked 17th, I think, nationally, 5-star in that class of 2026. So he'll be on an unofficial visit for Arkansas, Georgia. Arkansas's had a multitude of 5-star visitors on campus this season. A lot of them, players in for the wins over Purdue, Duke, Lipscomb, and North Little Rock. Going back to the red-white game, loss against Auburn, that was ugly. But the feedback was positive from the 5-star who attended that. Sam Funchess, class of 2026, national top 10 5-star, 6'11" forward center. And then, of course, Kentucky. Arkansas had more guys in for that, some high-level guys, including 5-star J.J. Jashawn Andrews out of Little Rock. And that was a competitive game again with game day there. Arkansas did lose. So Arkansas would love to keep winning and find a way to win that home game against Georgia with the big-time recruit in the house. When we start looking ahead now, I mentioned portal recruiting. I think it's important. Keep this in mind. This is the part of the year right now where even though the portal's not open, teams still have their seat, a lot of games left, a third of it, I guess, before you even get into postseason. But right now is where some of the stuff behind the scenes is already being talked about, looked at, worked on as teams try to get ahead. You're not supposed to do it, but that's just how it is. And again, it's third-party stuff, connections that got to, people that are connected, relaying stuff. And so a lot of the ball's already rolling on a lot of that. Many of you probably already know that, but if you don't, we can't give names right now. We could talk about guys you'd like, kind of a wish list. And there's plenty of guys that Arkansas's faced this year in some of these mid-major teams that would be attractive. That's always the case. It's fair to say Eric Musselman's done great in the portal. It's fair to argue not so much in this last class, which I think is true. I think that's obvious at this point, but that's going to be the bulk of the recruiting for this class, for this 2024 class, because we know for a second consecutive season, when you look at the high school ranks, Arkansas signed only 2 out of the high school ranks, and they're not the 5-star level kind of guys that he got 2 recruiting, or I guess now 3 recruiting classes ago. When you look at the, Nick Smith Jr., Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and so it's going to be heavy portal. So, start making your wish list. Start paying attention to some of these players if you haven't already. Because I know I am. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking about those things. We'll see what happens. We'll also see what happens with Eric Musselman. Again, I went through what folks can look at those as rumors. Again, I don't think they're rumors. I feel pretty good about that, but that doesn't mean there's any kind of finality or destiny or determination there. And so you continue to recruit. I think one of the biggest selling points for Arkansas right now, when you look at the last 2 games, is the fight and that effort coming back, and being in back-to-back ball games. That seems like an awful positive relative to what Arkansas's been able to do in the past 3 seasons. But remember, before they got to March Madness, they had to turn things around. This team may not have a viable path that's realistic based on the shortcomings to getting back to the NCAA tournament, but they do have the ability to do better, play better, and I think that helps everything, despite the fact that you won't be having, if you don't have postseason. That's what fans care most about, but you don't want the appearance of your program imploding, blowing up. And I think these last 2 games gives Arkansas fans some hope that Arkansas can at least correct course on that. Because, as you start to see players leave for whatever reason and a multitude of other issues, and there are rumors floating around about all kinds of stuff. Look, NBA scouts, the rumor that I won't talk about in specifics, NBA scouts are reaching out to me. They have to follow up on this stuff. And they're asking me about it. And I'm giving them the same answer. I'm like, you're going to have to dig somewhere else on that. And they trust me. They trust my analysis on players, on what's going on between the lines. But on stuff like that, I stay out of that. They're going to have to get it from somewhere else. But those kind of things can hurt, when they're, they got to do their homework. They got to do their due diligence. And so it's multiple. It's not just one. It's multiple. All right. And you've got other college coaches. I've got coaches from all kinds of programs calling me about all kinds of stuff, and I stay out of that. I'm not going to be spreading stuff around and talking down Arkansas's program. And some of these coaches know some of these players. They have genuine concerns, whatever it is. Things happen, and so you know. I think the big takeaway right now is Arkansas can still make positives here. At minimum, if Arkansas can be competitive and find a way to scratch out some more wins and then maybe finish these last stretch of games close to 500 in that block of games after starting 1-6, at minimum, I think that would be, righting the ship somewhat for your program, although it'll still be an ugly season relative to what you just got used to 3 years in a row. There's some hope there. All right, I'm not going to go any longer. 45 minutes in, a little more than that. I'm going to sign off. Thank you for joining me once again on HogvilleNet YouTube Live post-game analysis. I'm going to go add Musselman quotes. Haven't seen the post-game presser. Haven't seen his quotes yet. I got to add more game details. I want to thank my sponsor, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. We'll be back. I don't know if we'll be doing a pregame on Saturday as Arkansas plays LSU on the road at 11 a.m. That's on ESPN2. Dad, I'll do a pregame. I might come on and do something else prior to Saturday. And then we'll have a week between games like I stated. But we will have a postgame on Saturday. Until then, see you then.